This is Price Foster. I'm interviewing one of my very best friends, Ed Henry, this morning for the Centennial Series program. And here are the questions. What are some of your earliest faith memories? And was there any spiritual or religious background in your childhood?
I'm Edward Henry. I've been at St. Paul approximately 10 years, primarily because my wife came here, so I followed her. And it's been one of the best choices we have made in a long time. I have three very early memories. One is of my grandfather Henry when he was at his home near Madisonville, Kentucky. Is the fact that my father told me later how much my grandfather loved me as a little boy. I also have a photograph of him with three of my first cousins, three of them that are all just 2 or 3 years of age, surrounding him, which tells me that he was a person who loved children. And that came down into my father's experience, and he loved children. My father loved telling stories of what kids did and said to him. So I was a part of that childhood. I was my father's child and my grandfather's grandchild, and I was loved from the very beginning of my years.
Who are some of the people who were most influential in your faith formation and your spiritual growth?
I would begin with my mother and my father. My father was a tremendous influence upon my life. He did some things for me that I did not know until he died. I had polio as a kid, and that was in the midst of the Depression. Money was not an easy thing to come by in those days. I was cared for locally here at the Shriners Hospital. Then later was taken to St. Louis to Corsair here and Shriners in St. Louis, where I had surgery on 2 different occasions. And my father drove me, or either took me by train, from Kentucky to St. Louis every 6 months until I was 16 years of age. I had an opportunity to be with him in times, just long times driving, and they were times I treasure, even to this very day. One thing I didn't know was that at the time my father died, he had no life insurance. The reason he had no life insurance was that he cashed it in when I was an infant, or was a young person, and was caring for me and had to have the money for that purpose. Just a simple example of a parent doing what he had to do for the sake of a child. And that's a part of my background. Now, I have to say some other people. My mother was a person who was right strict in her way of relating to her children, and that was good. She was a person who really wanted the children to be independent, resourceful, active in doing things. She was that kind of a person herself and wanted us to develop that. A simple illustration was one time when I was a little boy, I didn't remember this, someone later in life told me this, that this other person said she saw me fall and was rushing to me to help me up. And my mother said to her, "No, you can't. He has to learn to do it himself." Well, that's a part of her desire that I be resourceful on my own. It was evidence of love, but a difficult love, because she would have perhaps preferred to come and lift me up as well. Grandmother Henry was the kind of person who had her Bible with her at all times. It was always open. She often sat us down, we 4 children, and read to us from the Bible. She simply wanted to have the influence upon this younger generation. I've had some people in my churches who influenced me too. That the influence of a Christian congregation is so vital, where you have a fellowship of those who are devoted to Christ, and they inevitably have a tremendous influence upon you, and that includes me.
The third question is, when you think back through your life, can you think of times when there was God's action in your life that you didn't at the time recognize that action and you later realized it was God moving in your life?
I married a girl that I knew was a Christian girl, and I knew what I was getting. And looking back after almost 66 years, I say I did right. I think God was in that.
The fourth question is, do you recall times when your faith was challenged? And can you think of how you got out of that dilemma when it happened to you?
I think of it more as the little subtle things that enter into one's thinking at times. The little question about, wonder if that's true, or why did that happen, which raises questions in one's mind pertaining to the sovereignty and the love of God. Now the question comes, how does one get through this? The way I think one best gets through it is to be in a Christian congregation of people who are devoted to Christ, or to be in a meaningful worship experience where one experiences God. 2 years ago, I guess about 2 years ago, at Easter, just with the simple singing of the Easter hymns, something happened to me in this worship service here at St. Paul. Christ the Lord is risen today, as sung by a strong congregational voice together, is powerful in my spirit and in my soul. And I think we need to realize what we do for others when we participate in meaningful worship.
And the last question is, how has your faith journey been influenced by being a member of St. Paul?
The class we're in, the LOA class, that's a class of people who are devoted Christians. Many people there are very alive and active in the life of the church. It manifests a spirit of kinship and love and caring. The name of the class, Love One Another, really depicts what it is. And to be a part of that class is really great, and I must say that. And it's been a blessing to Martha as well since she's been sick.
Yeah. You've been here 10 years now. St. Paul's been here for 100. Can you think how you would like for St. Paul to look if you were here 100 years from now?
I would say keep growing the spirit that you have. A spirit of fellowship within the congregation and a spirit of outreach, which you do through the building of the homes that you do, through the establishment of congregations that you do, through the general ministry of the church, through the giving that we all give. Keep that spirit alive and enable it to grow. I guess that's what I would say.
That's a beautiful answer.
Mm-hmm. I haven't been a participant at St. Paul for very long, but for a long time I've known about the church and have had some experience with some churches that were the fruit of this congregation's ministry. I was born in Camagüey, Cuba. There is a Sao Paulo Iglesia de la Metodista in Sao Paulo, in Camagüey. And I've been in that building. That building was built by St. Paul United Methodist Church of Louisville. And I've been there, worshiped there some years ago now, of course, before the day of Castro. But then there's St. Mark here in the city of Louisville. My wife put a membership on one occasion in St. Mark. When I was not a pastor, I was in the conference office. And so we've had a connection with that church, which is the child of St. Paul. Now then, on the other side of the story, as I have said, I've been the pastor of Highland United Methodist Church, which was the mother church of St. Paul. And I can look back into some of the literature there and see their reference to the Douglas Boulevard Sunday School and some things that were done that became the nucleus of St. Paul United Methodist Church. Now, the child outgrew the parent quite a bit, and you have become a church of great ministry in many ways. And I think that's a blessing that you are and have become in the life of this community.